SOC 101, Study Session 8, The Self and Socialization. Introduction. The self, that is our conception of who we are, is not biologically given. This emerges in the course of interaction with others. This conception of who we are is very important in the socialization process. The self refers to the ideas we have about ourselves in respect to our attitudes, capacities, and general behavior. We are always referring to ourselves in our everyday speech, using phrases like, I am proud of myself, talking to myself, ashamed of myself, hating myself, loving myself, and so on. These conceptions of who we are represent the heart of our humanness. These define our uniqueness as individuals who are different from others. In this lecture, we will discuss the self and the socialization process. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to explain how the self develops, discuss the contributions of two sociologists to the concept of self, and lastly, briefly describe the concept of impression management. Development of self. The development of self is believed to begin at birth, alongside the process of socialization. Interestingly, humans always place themselves at the center of events. This tendency is known in sociology as the tendency of egocentric bias. This means that we often overperceive ourselves as the victim or target of an action or event that in reality is not directed at us. This egocentric bias results in one human experiencing life through a self-centered filter. This clouded view of reality, no doubt, shapes our perception of events, and this affects the socialization process. To ensure order and continuity of society, understanding the concept of self-help to devise human actions in order to fit those actions with ongoing actions of others, a process that is central to socialization. This is because we can mentally be objects of our own actions. Let us now examine some of the contributions of sociologists to the concept of self. 1. The Looking Glass Self by Charles Hutton Cooley, 1864 to 1929. Charles Cooley challenged the notion that human nature is biologically determined. He maintained that people transform themselves and their world as they engage in social interaction. He used the concept of the looking glass self to explain how human nature is determined by social interaction. This means that the looking glass self functions as a magnifying glass during self-perception, so that what people see in themselves while others are present has an extra powerful impact on their behavior and self-image. The concept of the looking glass self can be summed up in this statement: I am not what I think I am, and I am not what you think I am. I am what I think that you think I am. This describes self as taking the role of the other, the premise for which the self is actualized. This therefore establishes that, through interaction with others, we begin to develop an identity about who we are, as well as empathy for others. 2. The Generalized Other. George Herbert Mead, 1863 to 1931. Mead expanded Cooley's concept of the looking glass self. He argued that we usually gain a sense of selfhood by acting towards ourselves in much the same way that we act toward others. In doing so, we then take the role of the other towards ourselves. That is, we mentally assume a dual perspective. We are both the subject doing the viewing and the object being viewed. In our imagination, we take the position of another person and look back at ourselves from this standpoint. According to Mead, the social unit that gives individuals their unity of self is called the generalized others. This implies that the attitude of the generalized other is the attitude of the larger community. To think about our behavior is to interact mentally with ourselves from the perspective of an abstract community of people. According to Mead, the generalized other is a vehicle by which we link to society. By means of the generalized order, we incorporate or internalize the organized attitudes of our community within our own personalities so that the social control becomes self-control. 3. Impression management. Irving Goffman, 1922 to 1982. Cooley and Mead had examined how our self-conceptions arise in the course of social interaction and how we develop our actions based on the feedback we derive about ourselves and our behavior from other people. Goffman directed our attention to another matter, that only by influencing other people's idea of us can we hope to predict or control who we become. Hence, we have a duty to present ourselves to others in a way that will lead them to view us in a favorable light. That is, a process Goffman called impression management. Study session summary. 1. The self, that is our conception of who we are, was said not to be biologically given. Instead, this emerges in the course of interaction with others. 2. The conception of who we are is very important in the socialization process. 3. The self refers to the ideas we have about ourselves in respect to our attitudes, capacities, and general behavior. And lastly, the contributions of various sociologies to the concept of the self. End of study session 8. Thank you for listening.